So hello, I am Matthew Lunders, the pastor at Damascus Road International Church, and thank you for joining us online. I am sorry that we couldn't all gather together in person today, but I think that there's still something special that can happen in this time of sort of getting to be together, even through the online format. Before we begin with some singing, I wanted to read something from a devotional that was I read on March 14th ahead of today, and it reminded me of why we do meet together, whether that's in small homes or in larger groups like this. So in the devotional, this is some of what it said. The fact of the matter is that we all lose sight of what's truly important. Winning an argument becomes too important for us. A beautiful house rises in importance beyond its true worth. Getting that next promotion becomes too important. Having a comfortable and predictable life takes on too much value. Being liked by other people becomes more important to us than the favor of God. Physical beauty and pleasure take on too much value in our hearts. A cool car, a great steak, nice clothes, or the last bowl of cereal from the box rises in value far beyond its true significance. We all need to be reminded again and again of what God has declared are the most important things in life. So in grace, God has designed us to regularly gather together and remember the things that are worth living for. Corporate worship reminds us of His power, glory, and grace. So hopefully today, as we sort of gather corporately online, you will be reminded of what's truly important, and you will be reminded of God's glory, His power, and His grace.
All of the barriers that set us What's up, fam? It is great to be here with those of you that are sitting in this living room as well as those of you who are watching on our video. We've been going through the last few weeks about the book of Proverbs and these advice verses that we've been given of how do we live with wisdom, because wisdom is more than just pithy sayings. It's more than just being able to say something that sounds good. Wisdom is something we're supposed to really be able to live. And today, what I want to talk about is how do we do that with our money? What's your treasure? Where does that come from? So an important reminder just to start with, Proverbs is a lot about wisdom, which we said already, and the fear of the Lord. And both of those things, we're told, are more valuable than money. Proverbs 16, verse 16 says, how much better to get wisdom than gold, to have knowledge than silver. So wisdom is worth more than in the fanciest treasures that you're going to be able to get. One chapter before that, Proverbs 15, verse 16, it says that it's better to have a little with the fear of the Lord than to have plenty but have inner turmoil. Now, just to re-go over what the fear of the Lord is, the definition that we talked about is that it's pretty much having a right conception of what God's definitions are of what's right and wrong, good and evil, and be willing to accept that and to live with that. And it's the kind of fear that isn't supposed to actually make you fearful and disrupted inside, but actually one that gives you peace. That's why it says it's better to have the fear of the Lord with a little than to have great treasure but have inner turmoil. And so like the fear of the Lord is set separate from this inner turmoil. And so living with wisdom, living with the fear of the Lord is better than having money. But how many people really live that way? And you might think, well, that's really easy for a rich guy to say because the Proverbs were mostly written by, or at least come from this wisdom tradition of King Solomon, who, let's be honest, he's king, he had money. But I think even that, he has a different space to be able to speak to from us. That he can say, look, I've had the money and I know what that's like, and those aren't as valuable as wisdom are. Those are not as valuable as the fear of the Lord. So the main question I want you to be able to think about as we go through, and the main question for the framework is, do you honor God with your money? Not just, okay, I want to make sure I don't dishonor, or I want to just be neutral towards God, but is really honoring God with your money what you're looking toward? Is that your intention? If someone was to look through what you pin all the time, so like, okay, I'm looking at the bank statement, what would they think you value? Is it just valuing yourself? Is it valuing your entertainment? Is it valuing clothes? Or is it valuing something that they see, wow, this person values God? And that's not always stuff that you're able to tell from just looking at a bank statement, but to really consider, what is it that you put yourself toward it, and how do we honor God with it? A lot of times that has to do with how we treat people. There's a verse in Proverbs that says that the people who insult the poor actually dishonor their maker, which is God. But those who help the poor honor God. The way that we treat the poor shows whether or not we're actually honoring God. And that comes with other people as well. And so it's not just making sure that you're using your money for things that are like religious purposes. Jesus was talking with some people who were Pharisees, and those are like these religious people who tried to do everything right and make sure that they followed the rules real good. And Jesus said to them, you guys, you give a tithe of even the smallest things. And so they would give like 10% of whatever they made, their produce. And he said even you'll have like these little gardens, like a little moose township that has herbs growing in it. He's like, you got, I don't know, your basil growing or your thyme or whatever it is. It's like, even from that, like you'll make sure you take 10% of this little plant so you can give it to God. But you've neglected justice. You've neglected the really love of God. So yes, you should tithe, but don't neglect the more important things, is what we're told by Jesus. Saying, like, you guys, is how you use your money is also how you're using yourself and the motivations behind it. Is this coming out of love? Is this coming out of justice? We're told Proverbs 3, verses 9 and 10, honor the Lord with your wealth and with the best part of everything you produce. And then he'll fill your barns with grain and your vats will overflow with good wine. So that God says, if you'll honor me first, that gives me the space to be able to bless you back. So do you honor God with your money? Consider that as we go into the rest of this framework, because we're told that that's some of what God is going to sort of judge by, is is not just having money, but how did you use it? How was your right living? Proverbs 11, verse 4 tells us that riches won't help you on the day of judgment. You're not going to be able to buy your way and be like, I know I lived wrong, but hey, here's money. Instead, we're told that right living can save you from death. So, seeing what God finds is important. So what are some of the things? Number one, we have a danger, right? The danger of greed. If you read through Proverbs over and over, it says, fighting comes with greed. Those people who seek, or those that are greedy, it causes grief to a whole family. Maybe you've seen that. Maybe you've seen that in your own family, in other people's family, that a pursuit after money leads to problems, not just for that individual, but for the whole family. We're told that the fate of those who are greedy for money is that very money that they're kind of searching for is going to lead to their own death. And Proverbs is pretty harsh with this. So there's the danger of greed. And we see even, so my favorite one recently, just because of some of the recent things that have happened in this world, is in Proverbs 11, we're told that people will curse those that hoard grain. But they'll bless those who are willing to sell in a time of need. But we see it like when people are greedy, when people are trying to keep everything to themselves, especially in a time frame where everyone's in need and they have that, hoarding is not the answer. That's a Jesus-like answer. So we should be careful and avoid the danger of greed. But on the flip side, there's the value of generosity. We're told that if you give freely, you'll even become even more wealthy, or that the generous will prosper, or all these various great promises that blessed are those who are generous, happy are those that are generous. To give, to be generous, is something that Proverbs encourages us over and over and over to do. I will put a second thing to be careful with that, though. Sometimes we think, I need to be giving, I need to be generous, so I'm going to give in every circumstance. If anyone asks me, I'll give for all of it. But Proverbs does give us some warnings as well. It says, if someone is asking you for money so that they can go further into debt, or if they're asking you to be their sort of guarantee or their surety so that they can be more in debt for something, Proverbs says really be careful of that. And it's even harsher. It doesn't say be careful. It says don't do that. Because the borrower will be slave to the lender. If you are getting yourself in debt, or if you are helping other people to get in debt, that becomes a very dangerous financial situation for you. So we do need to be wise in our giving. We need to be wise in our generosity, that we're not just sort of feeding other people's debt habits or our own debt habits. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be generous or that we shouldn't be giving. Our heart should be that love of God to take care of people, but there's also teaching them the wisdom as they go along with it. But in between being really generous and the danger of greed is simply learning contentment. I love this prayer that was in Proverbs 30. This isn't King Solomon speaking, but someone else speaking, and he prays, God, there are two things that I ask you to do. Please grant me these before I die. Number one, keep me from lying. Number two, don't let me be rich, but don't let me be too poor. Because if I'm too rich, then I might get prideful and say, who is God? I don't need God. But if I'm too poor, then I might steal. And in that way, I'll put God's name to shame, because people are like, this guy's stealing, and where's his God? So God, don't let me be too rich or too poor. Help me to learn to be content with what I have. And Jesus talks about that, of not worrying about tomorrow. Don't worry about what clothes you're going to wear, what food you're going to eat. Haven't you looked at the birds? Haven't you looked at the flowers and seen how God continues to take care of this world? No matter how crazy it's going, no matter how many people hide away, don't you see that God's world is still out there, and that He is taking care of birds, He's taking care of flowers. Isn't He much more going to take care of us? So seek first His kingdom, seek first His righteousness, and all these other things that will be added unto you. Later, the Apostle Paul, he wrote, godliness with contentment, that's gain. So learn contentment. So the danger of greed, the value of generosity, but also just the value of learning to be content with what you have. I'll ask quick now. Have something to share with the generations that will come behind you. Proverbs encourages us. At times it does encourage us to save. It does encourage us to plan and think ahead. So it's not just, let's see if I can waste all this money before I die. And then we're told in Proverbs 13 that good people, they leave an inheritance to their grandchildren. But the sinner's wealth is held up and then given away to the godly. There's this saying that like, oh, well, we came into the world with nothing, we'll leave with nothing. And it's true in a sense, but it's also not fully true in a sense. I mean, all of us when we were born, there was someone that was there. None of us came into this world completely alone, but we had the legacy that came before us, good or bad. And many of us, then you receive the inheritance from your parents or your grandparents or all these other things. And that's something that's been given to you in a way as a gift. And so be thinking, what is it that you're leaving to people behind you when you go? Because you can't take it with you when you go. We can't take our treasures with us. We can't take all of our money with us. But are you leaving something that shows you didn't care just about yourself, but is also showing that you did show care for your family, that you did show care for those that are behind, that you had something worthwhile to give? Again, that doesn't mean that you have to be, if you're not rich, then that means that you weren't a good family member. But to be conscientious of that, of what is selfish or what is seeking to do the best for others. So hopefully we'll be wise with our money. Hopefully we'll give. Hopefully we won't be greedy. Hopefully we'll learn to be content. Hopefully we'll give something that lasts beyond us. And that's something I desire for me individually, but also for us as a church. And so we're going to talk through some of the numbers in our church, and looking at that, seeing how do we make sure that we avoid greed, that we seek for generosity, and that we're content and also giving something to those that will come behind us. But let's pray quick. Heavenly Father, you're good to us. You've given us a treasure of wisdom, a treasure of your word, certainly a treasure in Jesus Christ and a treasure in your Holy Spirit. And so I pray that we'll be good stewards with that, and that with wisdom, we'll use all the good gifts that you've given to us. Thank you for being a good parent, a loving parent that takes care of us and provides us with what we need. And especially in this time when there's all this concern of what's going to happen tomorrow and the next day and over the next few weeks. I pray that we could trust you for each day and know that you're watching out for us today and tomorrow and all the days after that. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Now, over to me and Praveen sitting on the couch. So, I am sitting here on the couch with our church treasurer. This is Praveen. So, we wanted to go through some of the numbers from this last year, from 2019, and we'll also compare a bit of that with 2018, the year before, see how that's going. But probably the first main question for most people is going to be, okay, in 2019, overall, big picture, were our numbers up or down?
Big picture, our numbers are up, so we have had an increase, and we have a surplus of around close to 4,000 euros, 3,000 euros.
So that's up, everything is good, and we can go home now, or?
Not exactly. Our numbers are up in general, so we have had 3,000 euros excess in general, but a big portion of that comes from the missions. So if you look at the general offering, it has dipped further. So if you take the general account, which is everything else besides missions, we've almost lost around 7,000 euros. We've not gained that much, essentially. But missions has actually doubled. So we've had a huge increase in missions, but a decrease in the general receiving.
Okay. So is it a good place then to start with the money that was incoming and to see what led to that being less this year?
Yeah. So if you look at the numbers for the amount coming in, we can see that online giving has reduced in general, and Sunday offering as well has reduced. Now, this could be explained by the fact that we've had fewer people attending. Attendance has gone down by around 8%, and we have had way fewer visitors, and that's one contribution. The other side is we've had a lot of consistent givers in the previous years who have moved on, who moved to different places, and so giving has gone down in that case. But that does not mean people are giving less in church. It's just that the consistent givers have moved away, and we've had new people come in who have visited just for a short while and left. But it's not that people are giving lesser, it's just that the consistent givers have moved away.
Okay. But you said then that the missions is up. Do you want to go on to that, or do you want to look through some of the other numbers first?
We can look at the missions. Our missions offerings has actually doubled compared to the previous year, almost doubled. And that is because, well, we've just had people who are really dedicated to giving to missions. And in addition, we also have a one-time offering that someone has given, a huge offering which is to enable other people to go for mission trips. So all that contributes to the fact that we have way higher missions offerings received.
So in 2019, we had more that came in, including 4 mission trips. We didn't actually take a lot of mission trips in 2019. We are looking forward to doing that in 2020, God willing. Obviously, some of the current things with travel and all of those concerns around coronavirus and such. If we look at some of the other numbers that are lower this year, so food package incoming is lower, but that somewhat has to do with the food package account, correct?
Mhm.
And how that changed.
Yeah, food package incoming has gone down a little bit. Well, food package till 2018 was handled within the church, and in this past year, we've actually moved it so that food package has its own account in Belgium, and Luke Mayer is taking care of that, so all people can transfer money directly there. Although some people do transfer to the Damascus Road Church account, and we transfer it back to Luke. So the food package, we've had a decrease in incoming, partly because people have been giving to the Belgian account, but also because food package did a lot of events in 2018. So they did, there was an expansive amount of events done. And in 2019, there weren't any special events, so there was an extra giving there. I can give a more detailed overview of food package. If you want.
Yeah.
Sure. Luke Mayer has sent me these numbers, and based on that, we have the food package financial report, and we see that incoming has gone up almost 9%, and outgoing has also gone up 12%. And overall, they have a surplus, and that is much higher as well. And from Damascus Road, we've sent almost 2,000 euros, which contributes to around one third of what they've received overall for 2019. So this money is currently going directly to the food package, and we did send all the money that Damascus Road had for food package to their Belgian account. And from now on, people can, of course, continue sending to the Damascus Road account, and we'll send it to them. But you also have the option to send it directly to their Belgian account.
Okay. Great. So things are going well with the food package as well as everything being up. So if we look at the incoming stuff for the church, some of that has to do with the changes, also like the church retreat. In 2018, we had a church retreat, so we had money that came in for it. 2019, we didn't have one, so no money came in. But that doesn't mean that we made less money, so to speak. It just didn't come in for it. So some things are because we did it less, but there is also the valid concern that our Sunday offering and our online giving were down overall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what about for expenses? You, I believe, said expenses were also down somewhat this year.
Yeah. So we've cut down a bit on expenses, and this is for different reasons, which we can look at. So year over year, our salaries have gone down. It does not mean that we're not paying Matt or we're paying him less, but rather that we've had volunteers who were part of Damascus Road in 2018, specifically working with drum. And in 2019, they were only there for a few months, so we've not been paying them salaries essentially. Church rent, as you can see, is about the same. We're working on having more discounts with the MEC, so that's in process. But for this year, we've had a few discounts, but still, it's about the same as 2018. And mission funds payouts, those are pretty much steady payouts that we have. So it's not a big change from 2018. We're still supporting the same missionaries. We've reduced the amount slightly in some cases, but also supported new ministry fields. And food package, that's somewhere you can see there's a big growth in what we're giving, and that is especially because we gave the food package amount to the food package account. So all the money that Damascus Road had for the food package, we gave it as a lump sum in one go. Yeah, besides that, there is another dip that you might have.
As I look through, so the ministries one seems like there's a big drop in that. What's under ministries in that list, and then why is there that drop in the amount that we gave towards ministries in 2019?
Ministries in Damascus Road Church constitute different people serving in different places. You have the kids ministry, the worship team, the care team, food package, what used to be a ministry, and all these different ministries that are part of the church that people serve in. So ministries, the giving has gone down significantly, but that is because in 2018 we had some significant expenses. Specifically for the worship team, we had a lot of band equipment, and for care team, their training, and kids ministry as well had a lot higher amount than we gave past year. So these amounts are not fixed by the church; they're fixed based on the request received from the ministry leaders. So in this case, we just did not have requests for new trainings or new equipment. So in 2019, we didn't have a huge outgoing due to that. So it was just being lower request. But even now, we support ministries. Some ministries get fixed amounts, but it's all based on what they require for the year.
Okay. So that's most of the ingoing, the outgoing stuff. We've talked about food package. Are there any other things that you think are helpful for people to get to see or hear about?
Yeah, we could look at the missions outgoing. So just because we see people are interested in giving to missions, we've had a great increase in that. So missions in general, we just have a few missionaries who support every year, every month. And in addition, we have some missionaries who support like maybe one-time amount. So that has increased in the past year compared to the previous year. So we had some special requests as well with missionaries. In addition, we have the Kenya School Project. You can see it's about the same amount from the previous year. We continue supporting them this year as well. India Discipleship School, some of you might be well familiar with the project. That has significantly decreased, and that is because of restrictions in India, where the pastor there is worried about us sending them money and how that would look like with the current situation in India. So we're working out ways how we can send them money and how we can support them better. So for now, it's not that we've not supported them, but that's based on the pastor's request that we don't send as much money at once.
Yeah, it's somewhat having to do with timing and things. And in 2020, we've already made some transfers toward them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's filling some of that in. So it looks like it's a lot less for 2019, but in reality, over the whole period of time, we're keeping it about the same.
And you can also see Indonesia and Albania there. Indonesia is not a mission field we support regularly. It's mostly been requests. In 2018, we had some special requests, which we supported. In 2019, there were way fewer. And in Albania, that's a mission field we support by going for mission trips, and they had some special requests this past year.
Okay. So what would be your recommendations or anything that you'd want to say to the church as a treasurer going into this time of 2020? What do you hope to see?
I think in 2020 we have, God's going to do amazing things, and I feel we have a lot of missions budgets that we're going to use to support people in missions fields, but also it'll be interesting to see what God is going to do in Damascus Road Church as new people come in, and as we have, as we just have new ways of giving. So we have the church anniversary coming up, for instance, and that has a huge amount of cash outflow, definitely. So we need to look at how we can support that best. We have a lot of people coming from different places for that. Of course, God willing, with the whole situation happening right now, hopefully all that works out in time. We do have a church retreat this year. So all these are additional expenses, but we do realize that, of course, those are things that people want to pay for. So we do count on our church for the generosity giving for church retreat or for the anniversary. And so we're looking forward to that, and I'm certain God will provide this year. And we, as we said, we are in the black this year. That's amazing to see, but it's also amazing to see just that the heart that people have for missions and seeing how we as a church can fulfill that.
Amen. And having been a part of this church, almost 10 years as we come up to the 10-year anniversary, it's been exciting for me to be able to see how God has provided for us each year. That we have people that come in and move away, people who've been consistent, larger givers that move away, and that seems to happen very regularly, and yet God has continued to make sure that we have enough for what we need. And in our bank account, we do also have still some wiggle room. We have money so that we can continue on doing what God has called us to do. So thanks for that. If there's any time when you have questions about, okay, how does this work financially in the church, you can always come up and ask Praveen, ask myself, talk to some of the other servant leaders. That's something that we value, the ability for transparency. We want people to know what's financially happening with what they're giving. So feel free to ask questions at any point.
So thank you for joining us today. We do hope to continue to stay in touch. So be watching for our midweekly emails. That way you can stay on top of what's going to be happening over these next weeks and obviously further on. If you do not receive our weekly emails yet, what you can do is click on the link that's just below in the comment section and sign up for our weekly email. That way you get the most up-to-date news for things, and that helps us in situations like this when we're moving or we have to cancel a location. That way we want to make sure that we can let you know. So hopefully you get to be a part of that. May you today have the grace of our Lord Jesus and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit with you. No matter where you are, no matter where you're getting to watch this or whoever you get to be with, may you know that God is with you. Have a blessed Sunday.